welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
This is Jessica with Syosset Public Library's Turn the Page podcast, and we are welcoming back a guest. Please tell everybody, first of all, tell us who you are, and then tell us where you are, because I think it's wild.
Okay, so my name is Dionne, and I'm the author of 2 psychological suspense novels that are set in Michigan's Upper Peninsula wilderness. And this winter, my husband and I moved to the middle of Michigan. We moved from the Detroit area, busy, noisy suburbs, to a very beautiful piece of property on a quiet lake, and there's woods and trees all around. What we do not have is good internet. So I'm calling in, thank goodness for my local library, yay libraries, because they let me use their free, fast Wi-Fi to do my book event. So I'm sitting outside, it's a beautiful day, couldn't be better.
Excellent. And I'm glad that the weather is nice, because then I don't know how you'd be doing that. You'd probably need like an umbrella or something.
I have come with an umbrella before.
Oh,
not in a full rain, but yeah, it's kind of funny. I could always Zoom from the car, but as long as the weather's nice, I'm gonna be outside.
Well, I think considering your books having the sounds of nature in the background is ridiculously appropriate. So, first of all, so we're here to talk about, I guess, a little bit of everything. Your book, The Marsh King's Daughter, is being adapted into a film.
Yes, it is super exciting. So here's how this works. The movie version of The Marsh King's Daughter, again, a wilderness thriller, has been in the works for 3 years. And during that time, there have been 3 actresses attached to play the role of Helena and 5 directors attached to the project. And every time something cool would happen, my literary agent would always say, don't get excited, it's Hollywood, anything can happen, And sure enough, things do happen. People drop off the project and so forth. So this spring, though, it was announced again with a new star, new director, and everything was looking really positive. And my agent kept saying, don't get excited until filming starts. Well, filming started just 2 days ago, and I am so excited. I am excited. Over the moon. Yeah, the producers who are financing the picture, they posted a picture, those clapboards that they use to identify the shots. Well, it's in a woodsy area like what I'm sitting in now, and it has the name of the movie, The Marsh King's Daughter, across it, and it is just so cool. I have to have one of those.
And are you allowed to say who is tied to the movie?
Yes, everything is out in the open now, which makes it so much fun. So the 2 stars are Daisy Ridley, she was Rey from Star Wars, and then the actor playing her father, who's like really the bad guy of the movie, but a complicated bad guy, is Ben Mendelsohn, and he played most recently Danny Rayburn in the Netflix series Bloodlines. And he won an Emmy for that. So he was also in one of the Star Wars movies too.
Yes, I was going to say, it always comes back to that, doesn't it?
Yes. And so the director, he directed the movie Divergent and Limitless. The producers are the ones who are responsible for movies like The Imitation Game and The Revenant. And so it's just incredibly exciting. I've read the script. And while the script is very different from the book, as you would expect, because this is a visual medium, I have to say I really love it. And the producers, they promised me that they would, bring my story to the screen in a cinematic way, but stay true to the heart of the book, which, honestly, I just can't ask for more than that.
That's really exciting. And then the second exciting thing is that the book that we spoke about last year, The Wicked Sister, is coming out in paperback.
Yes, it's got a gorgeous new cover. I wish I could show it to you, but you'll have to look it up online. It's a very eerie, a girl in the woods. And the thing is, what The Wicked Sister is about, for those who aren't familiar with the hardcover in our previous discussion. It tells the story of Rachel, who she grows up in a beautiful log cabin on 4,000 pristine acres of wilderness in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. This acreage doesn't exist because the whole Upper Peninsula has been logged over, but I'm postulating that a timber baron built this beautiful over the top hunting lodge, and he kept this acreage basically for himself. So it's been passed down in the family. Rachel's parents are wildlife biologists, and they study the wildlife on the property. Her father studies amphibians, and her mother studies black bears. So Rachel grows up feeling very close to nature. She has a particular affinity for black bears. It's no big secret to say she even thinks that she can communicate with them on a deeper, almost a more spiritual level. But the book does not open with Rachel happily wandering the woods with her mother and father. Instead, she's in a mental institution. And she's been there for 15 years because she believes that when she was 11, she is responsible for the terrible shooting accident that took her parents' lives. So she's carrying that guilt all these years, feels like she's not worthy of living, any kind of a normal or happy life. And then fairly early on in the book, she gets additional information that kind of indicates that she couldn't have done this. So she goes back to that childhood home to get answers. Obviously, bad things happen because the book is called The Wicked Sister. Rachel has a sister who's still living at the lodge, and things go on from there.
I think, and we mentioned this last time we spoke, one thing I love about the title of your book is that it's even more complex than the sister who is obviously
Right.
the wicked sister. But if I was to say that, it would, say more than that, rather, it would be a little too much.
Yeah.
So
Well, the novel
there's,
does explore two pairs of sisters.
yes.
So it's told in the present in Rachel's point of view, and then in the past in her mother Jenny's point of view, which I think makes it more interesting because the past always informs the present and explains what's happening in the present. So the reader gets in on some information that even Rachel does not have in the present about how this tragedy came to be. And so Jenny has a sister, Rachel has a sister, and yeah, I'm exploring sisterly relationships. I had two sisters growing up, and I'm pretty sure they would both say that I was the wicked sister, but we'll let that go.
But that's just the thing. There's more complexity in just saying that somebody's wicked. Although there is certainly wickedness within this book for sure, and it was just so good. And what I love is that you take from fairy tales, just like little bits from fairy tales, in order to sort of lay a ground for the story, but it just sort of fleshes out from there.
Thank you for saying that. It's interesting because my previous psychological suspense, The Marsh King's Daughter, that actually parallels a Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale of the same name. So it's set in past and present as well, and the story in the past in particular, follows the structure of the fairy tale. So when it came time to write my next book, my editor wanted the book to have a fairy tale element, and I did too. But I didn't want to just make a copy of The Marsh King's Daughter and do the same thing again. So as you say, I'm incorporating elements from a lot of fairy tales, like Rachel and her sister, when they're growing up, for instance, they act out fairy tales in the woods, like Hansel and Gretel. I mean, why wouldn't you? And so there's that. And then even the setting, it's almost like the novel itself is a fairy tale because it's a beautiful hunting lodge in the woods that's reminiscent of the castle in the forest, right? And the two sisters and their rivalry, you get that in Cinderella with her stepsisters and so forth. And even like the little light touch with talking animals, well, in every fairy tale the animals can talk, right? So yeah, that was my objective with this novel, and it was a lot of fun to work in references to fairy tales, but in a normal, in a natural, in a way that's natural to the story, not forced feeling. It was fun to do.
Not at all. And some of these are fairy tales that aren't as known as others, especially I saw a lot of parallels to Snow White and Rose Red,
Right. Yes.
which is a
Yes.
great one.
It is.
Yeah.
And there's a bear that features in that, and I have bears in the book too. And I wanted to, in a way, the Wicked Sister, my main character, is the opposite of the character in The Marsh King's Daughter, because in The Marsh King's Daughter, Helena grows up with her mother and father living off the land. And so if she saw a bear, she would shoot it and eat it, and it was a very ramshackle cabin. Whereas for Rachel growing up, she has this beautiful over the top hunting lodge with a copper roof and stained glass windows and Tiffany lamps and, expensive oriental rugs, and probably a beautiful library with a lot of first editions, right? And again, she's a vegetarian from an early age. She won't even kill a mosquito unless she has to. So she's like the anti-Helena in that regard. But bad things happen in both books because that's what I write.
So, are you working on something at the moment that you can tell us about?
I am. Yeah, because these both of these books, The Marsh King's Daughter is set in Michigan's Upper Peninsula in the marshes, and The Wicked Sister is set in the forest. Well, there's another natural aspect of the landscape in the Upper Peninsula, and that's water. Michigan, for those who aren't familiar with the state, Michigan is surrounded by 4 of the 5 Great Lakes. And Lake Superior, in particular, is just so amazing. It's the largest, deepest, coldest of the freshwater lakes. And so yeah, I'm using the Lake Superior setting, a small town called Grand Marais on the shore of Lake Superior. And the novel is tentatively called The Counterfeit Granddaughter. And it's about a young woman who makes her living running grandparent scams. You know what I'm talking about. She calls up old people pretending to be their granddaughter in need of money for car repairs or whatever it
Yep.
might be. Yeah. And so as the story opens, her apartment has burned down, and she makes one last grandma call, and the grandma invites her to come and stay with her until she's back on her feet. That's what gets her from the Detroit area up to this little town of Grand Marais. But what I think is kind of cool is the grandma that she moves in with, she might be the counterfeit granddaughter of the title, because she claims without any support whatsoever that she's the granddaughter of Ernest Hemingway. And a lot of people don't know, again, but Hemingway has a strong Michigan connection. Well, they probably do know because the Ken Burns biopic just aired, right? And
Yeah.
and he came to the Upper Peninsula once to fish the Fox River in 1919 when he came back from the war. So, obviously I'm postulating that, he met this woman's grandma, and, she's the ultimate result. So I'm playing around, instead of with the fairy tale element, with the paralleling one of Hemingway's novels, A Farewell to Arms. We'll see how well that all works out in the end. But again, I'm having a lot of fun working on it.
Well, that sounds really exciting. When is that one supposed to drop, or are you taking your time with it?
I'm taking my time with it. And I have to say, like COVID, the pandemic, moving, everything is kind of turned upside down for people. And so I'm just now getting back into the swing of it after all of that topsy-turviness. And yeah, so I hope to finish writing it by the end of this summer. And then, possibly a year from then it will publish. So, and hopefully it'll be worth the wait.
I was going to say, hopefully we'll be talking about it when it
Yes,
comes out.
I'd love that. I'd love that.
It's a date for an interview.
All right.
So once again, so Marsh King's Daughter is now officially shooting with Daisy Ridley and Ben Mendelsohn. We look forward to seeing more of the progress for the Marsh King's Daughter as it films.
Well, it's so exciting for me. You know how when you watch a movie on screen and you see that long list of credits at the end and nobody really reads them or pays attention to them? Well,
Right.
now I'm tracking, as people are joined to the project on IMDb, what what their jobs are. And it is so fascinating. Besides, of course, producers and writers and art directors and costume designers and so forth. There's a storyboard artist, which is something that I hadn't really thought about, that there would be, somebody drawing out how the movie is going to appear. There's a stunt rigger. There's a tattoo designer, because they're both Helena and her father are heavily tattooed in the book, so they're going to have to do that with the actors as well. And even an animal wrangler.
Ooh, very
I
cool.
read the script, and there's a 3-legged coyote, a wolf, and a deer in the script. So, somewhere they're going to have to come up with those animals for the film, which makes it, it's just very fun to watch it develop that way. Yeah.
And The Wicked Sister is due out in paperback on June 29th.
Yes. So
excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And
time this airs, it'll be out.
Yes, and hopefully we'll be seeing the counterfeit granddaughter. That sounds absolutely amazing, and I love the idea of a Hemingway retelling. Because
and exploring the relationship between grandma and granddaughter. In the Marsh King's Daughter, it was father-daughter, Wicked Sister, sisters. But there are a lot of grandparents who are raising their grandkids, and it's a very unique relationship too. So that's what I'm working with here, in the context, of course, of a psychological suspense.
All right. Well, once again, this was Jessica with Syosset Libraries Turn the Page. Our guest today was
Karen Dionne.
And we are going to close this chapter. Thanks for joining us.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.